Part 2 of the second part. Question 157, Article 4. Whether the incontinent in anger is worse than the incontinent in desire. It's the battle between the hothead and the drunk, or the addict. But addiction is a medical term that doesn't quite get at the moral question here. We are talking about a person, myself or yourself, when we are not at our best, not your finest hour, someone might say. If you had it to do over again, you definitely wouldn't want to repeat that mistake. But then again, if we're being honest, if you had it to do over again, you could see yourself falling into that same pit of sin. It's a recognizable pattern, but what's worse, getting mad and lashing out in destructive violence, or being despondent and self-destructive with drink, or with drugs, or with some other guilty pleasure? Ask Aristotle, quote, "Incontinence of anger is less disgraceful than incontinence of desire." That is from, you guessed it, Nicomachean Ethics, Book 7. But why? Thomas acknowledges that, quote, "The more difficult it is to resist the passion," like the stronger the passion, the less grievous apparently is the incontinence. Even Heraclitus, the pre-Socratic, knew that, quote, "It is more difficult to resist desire than anger. Desire pulls on us, and anger uses reason. We don't just flinch when we're mad. We do flinch, but then we work ourselves up into a rage. We even plot revenge. And this anger can lead to murder. What does the other type of incontinence lead to? Just a hangover or embarrassment or at worst adultery? Thomas responds, quote, "Incontinence of desire is worse than incontinence of anger because the movement of desire is more inordinate than the movement of anger. It's the inordinance of the action." More on that later. Thomas gives 4 reasons, straight again from Aristotle, Nicomachean Ethics, Book 7. The first reason is, reason itself. Anger involves wanting to right a wrong, which is a good, rational thing to want to do. But with anger, we're going about that in a bad way, in the wrong way. Righting a wrong in the wrong way is a wrong. Still, it's natural and it's an understandable part of our human condition. In a most positive sense, I could imagine getting mad at a stubborn bolt. You're trying to loosen the stubborn bolt and it's stuck, and you get mad and summon all your strength, and finally you're able to loosen it. Incontinence is not aligned to reason. You wanted to get the bolt off, so you got mad, but you ended up getting it off. Incontinence is not aligned to reason that way. And this is obvious because we sneak those sins. Imagine a group scurries off to go do something and then come back to the party. What kind of pleasure needs to be hidden and secret from view? Anger is public. Even though the angry person hates the feeling, you don't want to, you just have to do this. You just feel that anger welling up and you have to do this, unless maybe you combine the two and you like the feeling of being angry. Oh, that's even worse. The worst of both worlds, combining the two, a violent drunk. No, thank you. And yes, it's true that these desires, they pull on us constantly, but anger can be sudden. And when it's sudden, it's even harder to resist, and therefore possibly more excusable. The main point here, giving in to desires that you know are bad. That's not unreasonable or a-reasonable. It's anti-reason. You know better. And you know that you know better. You know that you know better. And you do it anyway. Well, what do you expect is going to happen? Yes, murder is worse than a hangover, worse than adultery even, but Thomas is, as always, being precise. We are not evaluating this particular angry act versus that in particular incontinent act. We are comparing whether the incontinent in anger is worse than the incontinent in desire, and it is not. And knowing that will help us better form habits that will allow us to avoid falling into those same sins.